Welcome to Monza. That's where we are this time around, but the thing hasn't actually come through. We're all set then, ready to go for what is going to be an epic session for Formula 2 here at the wonderful circuit. So fingers crossed it's all going to be good, and fingers crossed it's going to be an interesting session as the drivers will head out onto the circuit as well. Okay, let's get ready and head down to Sky Sports F1 then, as the green light goes on, and we will be underway for what will be an interesting session and an interesting running order as we get ready for the Formula 2 Italian round 11 of the season. Let's go down and join the team.
Audi sponsors Formula 1 on Sky Sports.
We've had the summer break, now it is time to go racing once again in the FIA Formula 2 Championship. We are in to the final run for the season, just 4 rounds to go. And in terms of the fight for the championship, there are just 30 points between the top 5 in the standings, and they are being led by an Italian driver, reigning Formula 3 champion in Leo Fornaroli, who took the championship title here last year at the very final corner, around the 11th and final corner at Monza. The highest speeds in terms of Formula 2. We are flat out at several points here around the Temple of Speed. It's going to be one of the fastest laps of Formula 2 action you will see, and it delivers some of the best racing of the season and some of the most unpredictable as well. And we've got a bit of a delayed start to our practice, and here to call you through that session and throughout the rest of the weekend, myself, Chris McCarthy. Welcome back from the summer break, Alex Brundle.
Formula 2 at the Temple of Speed, Parkland Circuit, always a highlight of the year, isn't it? 5.7 kilometres, undertaken at over 80% full throttle. It is an utterly brilliant challenge, and a challenge these drivers know very well indeed. And as well they do, because it's been a long old break since they were last out, back at the Hungaroring. On the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you can see the state of the championship after that break. Leonardo Fornaroli leads on 154 points from Jack Crawford in his dams on 137. It's a tight battle then, back from Crawford past the driver in his 5th season, Richard Vishaw, and then to Luke Browning in his Williams Junior liveried machine just behind. And all to play for then, with a lot of points on offer this weekend in Monza and a lot of racing to do over the 2 races through the weekend.
Yep, new livery for Richard Vishaw this weekend. He's trying to save weight on the car, so you'll see just a bit of a different livery on his car, which he launched coming into the weekend. The chasing pack as well, we have Pepe Marti. He is 57 back. He'll be looking to try and close in his Campos Racing teammate Arvid Lindblad likewise as well. But the summer break, how is it coming back as a driver, Alex, for drivers? for some drivers, they would have liked to keep the momentum going. For others, a chance to reset after a summer break.
Yeah, well, you jump in the sim, you try and get yourself back under control, but it's always best if you're back at a circuit you know, just as Gabriele Mini is this weekend.
Yep, Gabriele Mini hasn't quite won here on home soil throughout his career. Could this be his weekend? Let's find out what the Italian driver had to say coming into it.
Well, it's a bit different, you know. Everybody loves Ferrari being Italian. Everybody loves Charles. Everybody loves Lewis now, especially in Ferrari, being a Ferrari driver. I think many people also follow F2 and F3 lower categories, so they know, you know, all the Italians that are coming up the ladder, me, Leonardo, and you know, all the new F3 drivers. And usually, at least it was the case in Imola, there are many tifosi also for us. So it's really special. It's something that makes us smile and gives us, you know, extra boost on track.
Gabriele Mini, part of the most spectacular fight for a Formula 3 championship I think we'll ever see. It went to the very last lap, last corner, and Gabriele Mini, part of two Italians fighting for the championship here at Monza. It was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? It
really was a very important weekend then for the Italian drivers. Also an important weekend for the driver we were looking into the eyes of just a few moments ago. Prancing horse on the engine cover, of course, for Dino Deganovic, who will be feeling that support and all the pressure that comes with it this weekend in Monza. It's a simple circuit, but it has hidden depths. Important to try and get a toe if they can in qualifying and get those turns absolutely right. There then a look at the new livery for Richard Verschoor. Very early 2024 Formula 1 inspired, that, isn't it? Yeah. Let's have all of the weight, even if we're going to hit the weight limit, let's have all of the weight as central to the wheelbase as we possibly can. What you're also seeing is a bit of a view of the low downforce rear wing for the Formula 2 cars that we don't see very often. So that's what that little sort of tent-shaped rear wing element, top element is. We don't see it too often, sometimes at Spa, but definitely here at Monza.
Yep, and that's because this circuit, very quick, flat out around most of the circuit. It means qualifying is going to be key. It also means overtaking lots of opportunities around this circuit. We saw Gabriele Bortoleto coming all the way from the back to first last year, was in the right place at the right time for the pit stop, of course, but in the sprint race as well, we saw lots of opportunities for overtaking, Alex.
What a magic drive that was. Last to first challenge last year for Gabriele Bortoleto. Aided strategically, of course. Strategic change for this year, Chris. We're off the medium compound tyre onto the soft to go with the super soft. And so that's a change in the tyres available for the Formula 2 drivers at Monza this time around.
Yeah, something we haven't really had around here before, so it'll be interesting to see how that combination goes together. You can see the Red Bull soft tyre on Leo Fornaroli, and let's hear what our reigning Formula 3 champion had to say coming into the weekend.
It's very nice to come here as a championship leader, but still it will not change my approach to the weekend, because I will try to focus on myself and try to improve as much as I can, because there is always room for improving. It will be a challenging weekend because here all the gaps are very close, and the racing is also super nice here in Monza, so hope for a good weekend.
Well, Leo Fornaroli won that championship last year without taking any wins, something we hadn't really seen before, and now returns as the championship leader in Formula 2, 3 wins under his belt. Just shows the confidence he continues to grow as a driver. He's trying to follow a similar path to what Gabriele Bortoleto did in winning back-to-back titles with the same teams in Trident and Invicta. He's really just growing with confidence all the time, isn't he, Leo Fornaroli?
A universally popular character, which is difficult to beat, isn't it, when you're winning in a Formula 2 paddock. You're riding on board with erstwhile championship leader, now 5th in the championship, Alex Dunn, McLaren Jr. This is a very Alex Dunn kind of racetrack, isn't it? Yeah. Got to attack, not a lot of downforce on the car, a lot of movement, and drivers will be trying to use this pre-practice, Chris, to gain an understanding really mechanically but also aerodynamically on these cars. So often what happens in Monza is you peel all the downforce off, you run the skinny wings, and then little mechanical intricacies of how you set up your car suddenly become way more relevant than they do anywhere else. That's because when you paint downforce over the top of those problems, where you're at the, for example, the Hungaroring or at Silverstone, you can actually get away with setting the car up slightly incorrectly, purely because the downforce squashes it to the road and you can carry the speed. Take all of that downforce away and you've got to have the mechanical setup, brake bias, wing bars, springs, absolutely right. So a really important free practice session for these drivers to use all of the experience of the teams and themselves.
Yeah, it's somewhere where they have to nail it. We talk about some of the corners around here. You're punished if you don't get good runs through those chicanes as well. Just small mistakes around here, Alex. If you come through the Lesmo, make a small mistake, drop a wheel, you can be punished by a few tenths if it's qualifying, or losing a place or two come the races.
That's the thing. There's not a lot of it, but you're not racing the track, you're racing the others.
Yeah.
And so you have to do what there is better than everybody else. Iconic corners here. Resurface, of course, last year. It used to be a very sort of polished surface to the racetrack, very closed surface. In general, a low energy layout for the tyre, which is why we trend towards the softer compounds and a low degradation surface for the tyre. But drivers really need to get it absolutely right. Tyre stays with them, so it's all about, firstly, nailing those tricky apexes, and then secondly, making sure that you get the wheel-to-wheel racing done absolutely right.
Oh, AIX Racing in pit lane. Joshua Dirksen will be looking to try and get the podium of form that we've seen him have at times this season. He was quick here last year, was the driver from Paraguay. He's just crawling around Parabolica now and getting ready to go back around on a build process before some flying laps, which will be coming very shortly, no doubt.
15th in the championship at the moment, Joshua Dirksen, winner of the first race of the season, just trying to build a bit of energy into the tyre. Drivers suffered with graining a lot through last year's event. That's where you rip away the surface of the tyre by pushing too hard, too early in the long radius corners. Think turn 11, the Parabolica, for one of those. Tends to be the left front tyre you grain around Monza. Both of the Lesmos, which are turns 6 and 7 around Monza, damage the front tyre, as does the Parabolica too.
Here's Gabriele Mini, a home race for him. This could be a really big weekend for him. He had, of course, the last season where he did miss out on the title, but this could be a great weekend now for him to go and get a win on home soil as well, and try and finish the season really strong. We spoke to him yesterday on the Instagram Live, and he said some of his most favourite moments of the season have actually been qualifying on pole position, so he seems to enjoy putting one lap pace together, and this is a circuit where getting that one lap pace is very difficult to do, just because you have to nail the exit of the corners, and could be a good weekend for him. And well, this is where we saw Ollie Goethe in the Formula 2 car for the first time here last season.
Ollie Goethe sitting behind the wheel of his MP, yet to run, looking out at the end of the pit lane. And it's surprising, actually. You don't get a lot of deg here. You're not really tyre limited. So I normally expect drivers to get out there and try and maximise the running that they can get. Rafael Villa-Gomez doing exactly that as he waits for the pit lane to be clear. What is a really long pit lane here?
Yeah.
It's a long pit lane, which means that strategically a pit stop costs you a lot, and that's always an interesting factor in the races as well.
Yeah, we saw Pepe Marti, actually. He was one of the drivers who dived into pit lane early with Gabriel Bortoleto last year. Slow pit stop, and it cost him dearly. It cost him the chance of a podium, and he actually dropped to 15th on the road at that time. So a slow pit stop here, it can lose you a lot of time. It's a good point to make. Right, we're seeing Joshua Dirksen at full speed. This is our first real look at Monza at full speed for the first time this weekend, Alex.
Through the Rogers chicane and purple first sector by dint of being one of the few drivers to have been through there at speed. The Lesmo corners, the first one requiring a totally different technique despite being a very similar radius to the second one for Joshua Dirksen. DRS open. DRS gains you less around Monza because the top flap of the rear wing is smaller anyway. Less drag means less drag to reduce. And so in Joshua Dirksen goes to the Ascari chicane. Used to be very bumpy in the braking zone. Now less so. And the worry is always getting really wide out of that final section of the Ascari chicane. If you get wide out of there, doesn't mean you've made an error on the final apex. Normally means you've made an error in the middle and then carry that bad positioning through the rest of the corner. These early laps for Joshua Dirksen just starting to come in. But that looked like a relatively paced effort, still building up speed.
Yeah, he's put a benchmark down for us really there. Other drivers just putting sector times in. Max Esterson putting a purple first sector in. We've got Roman Stanek likewise. Leo Fornaroli, one of the drivers to hang fire for now. He is just waiting in the pit lane.
It'll be about track positioning, trying to get him out there in a nice little space to understand and learn the track. Gabriele Mini on home soil has a better first sector, and indeed as well it might be. Around 600ths of a second away from what Joshua Dirksen's achieved. These are the kind of margins that we're expecting all weekend long here, by the way. It is tiny margin stuff around Monza, and that's why even if you gain a couple of tenths of a second for a toe here, it's still worth something. Ritomo Miata is making his way round as well. A driver that can draw comparison in some way for the next interesting name that has been moving around the media with relation to a campaign in Formula 2 next year.
Yeah, Ritomo Miata, let's see him over the line, shall we? He got on the podium at Spa just a couple of rounds ago. Here he comes over the line, and Ritomo Miata goes fast. It's 1:34.262. We're just building into this session now. Still some drivers in pit lane in terms of next season. AIX have been the busiest in terms of getting drivers confirmed, both in Formula 3 and in Formula 2. Be good to see Emo Fittipaldi on the grid for next season. But there has been another name, Alex. It's been the talk of the paddock this season so far. Oh, the talk of the paddock this week, shall we say. Colton Herta being heavily rumoured to join the Formula 2 grid for next season. We cannot not get your thoughts on this in this practice session whilst we watch Alex Dunn come round the final corner and jump on board with the Irishman. What do you think about Colton Herta? It's being reported that he's going to be joining us for next season.
I'm going to give you this full lap of Monza from Alex Dunn first, and then we'll talk about Colton if we can. But down towards turn one, it's quite a late breaking point down there, although you are lower on downforce, so it's around 150 meters. Alex Dunn making his way through the Curva Grande, where you need to try to manage the steering to take as much load out as you possibly can. Used to be extremely bumpy in the braking zone. Down to the Roger chicane, now it's better. 100 meters, got to take that first apex and leave yourself in a good position to muller the curve through the exit and try and get good traction down towards Lesmo 1. Banked, more so than it looks on the camera, towards the inside. Clear the brakes as early as possible, in exact opposition to the technique in Lesmo 2, where you need to get the power on and drive then down towards the Ascari chicane. DRS will be open under the old banking as you make your way through the trickiest braking zone in the lap. Look for the 100-meter board on the right-hand side. Skirt around the inviting curve on the left, and then it's patience on the throttle through the exit, and another long, flat-out run, building up towards 300 kilometers per hour for Alex Dunn. The final braking point in the Parabolica is unbelievably late, 75 meters in a Formula 2 car. You must make that apex, then wind the throttle in, bring the turbos in, and drive the shortest possible distance to the line. It's a personal best for Alex Dunn, and up to 4th. And now that's done, it is great to see Colton Herta join us on the Formula 2 grid next year. It's amazing for the sport. to see that crossover. I think anyone who is a fan of any series which is not Formula One always thinks in the back of their mind, how would my favourite driver, the driver I'm watching, the driver who's winning in the series I'm watching at the moment, fare in the pinnacle of motorsport? And I commend them for being brave enough to throw Colton into that scenario.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very, very difficult. What we've not got here is a driver who's or a sports person who's competing in high jump in America coming to compete in high jump in Europe.
Yeah.
We've got a different genre of the same sport. These cars are specific. The tyres are different, and there's a lot of learning to do. It's going to be a great challenge for Colton, and I think that it's going to be incredible to watch him engage with that challenge. Are there other options as to what they could have done with him to get the super license points that he needs to make it to Formula One, if indeed that's the way that the races are run in Formula 2. So that's going to be tremendously interesting for us to watch.
Yeah, and let's clear that bit up. Of course, he is signed as a test driver there at Cadillac, and that's fantastic news for him as Colton coming across. The new team signing a very talented driver in IndyCar, in Colton, who's done great things in IndyCar, and this might just be about him learning exactly what these drivers are doing here, going on the exact same journey these drivers are doing here to get them ready for the next step. And we've seen what a brilliant job the likes of Isaac Hadjar, for example, was doing this year in F1. Gabriel Bortoletto likewise.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting period in Formula 2. That expected to come next year. We don't as yet know which team Colton Herta will be racing with in Formula 2. The information coming from Dan Towers, who is the CEO of the operational group that are running the Cadillac Formula 1 team. He mentioned that on a podcast this week, and so that a name that's going to be joining us on the shores of Formula 2, and definitely from a IndyCar F1 crossover perspective. Fascinating to watch. Fascinating to watch also Miney now making his way to the top of our screens in the early phase of this 45-minute free practice session.
Dino Beganovic in second as well. The high-tech driver, Alex Dunn, in 12th place, and we had that full onboard lap with him with Rodin Motorsports. He was very quick here last year in Formula 3, and I think I agree with you. I think this is an Alex Dunn kind of track, and just as we say that, there he goes into P2. Dino Beganovic, I think a driver who would have welcomed the summer break, had just had a bit of struggles at times, but he'll be looking to go and end the season strong. Oh, and a bit of a slide there through Ascari, and that's exactly what you were talking about before. Yeah,
that's the nature of Monza, is that all of that downforce that you're used to being able to lean on, now not there in the mid-corner. So Dino Beganovic finding out that the rear gets a little bit loose. You tend as well to move the real aero balance slightly forwards when you peel downforce off the car. That's because the rear wing tends to cost more drag than the front wing does.
Yeah.
So Beganovic there finding out that his car's a little bit more flighty than it was with all of the elephants sitting on the rear axle back in Hungary.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go, Jack Crawford then, making his way down the Aston Martin Junior, American driver who made very clear that he wanted to progress his career, and no doubt he'll still want to do that, going on to win his championship if he can. He's well in the hunt, and well in the hunt so far in this practice session. Goes up to second. It's a Dams Lucas Oil 1-2 so far. Ritomo Miata, who is a former winner in Super Formula, in third place. Arvid Lindblad fourth, and then we've got Dino Beganovic, JB. John Bennett is at P6. Dunn, Dirksen, Mini, Esterson as well. Victor Martins rolls out of pit lane, won the Formula 3 title here back in 2022. in that pit lane. What can he do in this practice session?
Leonardo Fornaroli makes his way through the second lesson. You can already see that front tyre start to go away from him. And this is the problem that you have around this shorter layout. Not only is it a short layout, you get big differentials in speed between drivers on the cool laps and drivers on their push laps, which means that you get these sort of traffic bundles moving around the circuit together, all hunting from a toe off each other. And if you're a driver coming up behind one of those, it can cost you a lot of lap time. You can see now Fornaroli looking in the mirror there, having already been blocked, thinking, no, you're not going to block me on my fast lap and then take a toe from me on the next lap. He's going to come around and finish this one, and unfortunately be punching a hole in the air for that full group behind him.
I expect he'll move straight over and back off, will he? No, he'll keep going. Let's talk about the toe. In F3, it's definitely something that's very valuable. What about in F2? Is it going to have a similar effect?
Yeah, I mean, you're punching a big hole in the air here. And I think it's... The nature of Monza is not only that it's so high speed, it's also not a particularly complex circuit, which means that you have small gaps between the drivers, and that means that even a small toe can make a difference. The absolute optimum is around 5 or 6 seconds in a Formula 2 car. You want to be distant to the driver ahead, about where, maybe a bit less than that, about where Browning is now. And then you slowly catch the driver you're trying to get a toe of through the lap. If you start the lap nose to tail, you get a little bit of aero wash, for example, through the Lesmos, through the Parabolica. So timing that absolutely right is perfect. Of course, the end of qualifying, you're just scrabbling for any possible toe you can find. Drivers need to be careful, though, because race control have a history of coming down quite hard on funny business in order to try to put the cars in the right position.
Alex Dunn across the line and makes his way in towards the first corner. And as you mentioned, it's searching for that toe, isn't it, that drivers will have to be careful of. As we see Alex Dunn come out of Rettifilo now. Let's jump back, and we can see here driver Rotoma Miata giving a toe out to Richard Verschoor. We'll have to get used to that livery, and he's gone purple through the second sector, so definitely benefiting from it. Whoa, and that's Rotoma Miata running wide there. I thought he'd gone all the way around for a second, but just about manages to get it back together.
Yeah, that was an incident you can hear entry, wasn't it, for Rotoma Miata. Richard Verschoor with 2 green sectors and his new low-weight livery. It is a method, you know, because so often not only is the weight general of the car important. Richard Verschoor will be on or under the weight limit for the rest of the year, but it's also about where that weight is. Of course, livery vinyl, as it tends to be in a Formula 2 car, as Miney makes his way back up to the top of the field in his dams in what's a good session for him. But it's normally vinyl stickers, and when you actually pick up a roll of vinyl, which is what they need to livery these cars, and hold it in your hands, imagine that on the far extremities of the car as it goes round with massive leverage over the centre of mass. It's a big deal in terms of weight. Every time you turn the car, try to slow it, try to accelerate it.
Yeah, and I mean, his car, it was a bright orange livery before this, but they've stripped it back, and he said it's due to the fact that he has been running overweight.
Big old moment for Rotoma Miata. Coming back momentarily to Colton Herta, I think a demonstration of the talent when you see that moment from behind. A demonstration of the talent required and the difficulty in terms of getting up to speed with a Formula 2 car, demonstrated by Rotoma Miata, who won Super Formula, won Super GT, came into Formula 2, has had his brilliant moments behind the wheel of a Formula 2 car, but in terms of championship finish, I believe it was 19th in the first year. Rotoma Miata sits 14th in the championship in the current year. It's a tough thing, not only to come across into a new series, but one as specific as Formula 2 on a Pirelli tyre demonstrated that difficulty.
Someone who knows all about Formula 2, the most experienced driver on the current grid, Richard Verschoor. Let's hear from him now.
Unfortunately, we had some qualifyings that didn't really go our way. Twice P11, of course, is not ideal at all. But on the other hand, you know, I know exactly why that happened. We have a good explanation for it, and I'm feeling very confident that we can keep going as we have been doing the whole year. We have been strong always in qualifyings, in the races, so I feel very confident with the team. They give me a lot of support, even when the races didn't go my way. You know, we didn't start to fight, but we started to look at how we can improve, and I feel like we are still in a very good position at the moment.
Richard Verschoor in his 5th season and in a very strong position to challenge this year. That's exactly what he's off to do, to go and win this title. Now, 3rd in the championship within 20 points of the championship lead, a lead which has changed, it seems, with every single round so far.
That very good position. 3rd in the championship, 135 points. He's 2 points off 2nd. Has Luke Browning 10 points behind him in 4th. So Richard Verschoor very much in with a shot of, well, a championship victory still at this stage of the year. Leonardo Fornaroli stealing a bit of a march after a fabulous feature race victory in Hungary. But Richard Verschoor still very much in the hunt, as is Jack Crawford. 700ths of a second, only what he's missing from the benchmark, which was previously there until...
Season, is it now, during the summer break into the last run? They're all going to be thinking about what they're going to do next, isn't it? This is the time of year where they think about that. Here we can see Luke Browning, who was fighting for the Formula 3 title when he came here last year. He's settled into Formula 2 very well, fighting for the championship this year.
Well, not sure what button he's pressed there.
No.
But I wouldn't press that one again.
No, me neither. It looked good for the cameras. There's Sebastian Montoya. He's had a good season jumping up with, rejoining Prema, shall I say.
Just getting a bit of feedback from Dad over the top of the cockpit. Trying to understand the car through this session. Montoya at the moment sitting 17th at a circuit which is extremely sensitive as well to fuel load. So you really don't get a sense of the runners and riders through free practice. Is important here to qualify well, if you can. It's a 460+ meter run down towards turn 1, so there are opportunities to make places. But the reason it's important to qualify well in Monza is turn 1 is fraught with danger. It is a big braking zone into a right-left, very tight chicane. If you can be out front, it really does help stay out of incident in those early laps, particularly of the feature race, where, as we've seen, as we saw last year, you can start last and still win if you manage to make it through those first couple of laps.
Yeah, we had quite an incident last year. Zach O'Sullivan made contacts with another driver. I think it was Richard Verschoor, and or one of the MPs, and found himself spinning sideways across the pack. Okay, what's happened here?
I think that's Leo Fornaroli to his right-hand side.
Yeah, I don't know if Dino had either.
I think potentially blocked. I think he potentially blocks Fornaroli, and then apologises. Then has to take it's our first debut for Bollard Camp, which is on the right-hand side of the Roja chicane. You must take that route should you miss it. Boganovic there, I think, on a cool lap and fancying the shorter route to try and stay out of the way of the traffic, which is oncoming.
Here we go, back to Richard Verschoor. I want to pick up what I was mentioning earlier, Alex. It's the part of the season, isn't it, for the drivers in the run-in now, where they'll no doubt be thinking of what they're going to do next. Rookies, is it going to be their returning? Drivers like Richard Verschoor, what are they going to do next? They're almost just trying to demonstrate their talents to the F1 paddock and beyond here in this running now to really secure their futures going forward.
Yeah, they are, and it's important for Verschoor this year. with a look out into the world of motorsport. He's had a great career, continues to have a great career behind the wheel of a Formula 2 car, demonstrated clear ability, and will be looking then for the next step. There'll be plenty of drivers as well trying to, particularly those drivers in their first year in the series without necessarily the Formula 1 affiliation, trying to demonstrate they're a good bet for next year. Of course, Formula 2, an open market for drivers' seats. They'll be working on who they're going to drive for next year. Teams will be looking for drivers that they think are going to give them the opportunity to win the championship into next year. Exactly. And they'll be looking from sort of 6th through 15th in the championship for who the next second year hotshot is going to be. And that's really important. So even if drivers are not necessarily in the running to win the championship this year, every single performance now through these final 4 rounds of the season, it's just convincing next year's team, and they'll have a hierarchy in their mind of which team they'd like to drive for, which team they think is going to have the best car into 2026. And it's giving them bargaining power with that team every lap that they turn that puts them at the front of the field. Yeah, I mean, you look towards those drivers who have just come into the championships, like Yadina Beganovic, Gabriele Mini, Sebastian Montoya, Arvid Lindblad possibly. They'll all want to, some of those drivers will be looking, as you mentioned, to come back in, and it will be who are they going to drive for, be it with the same team or another. And those are the conversations they will now be having or looking to have based off the back of the performances they'll now put in. It's also mileage as well. You look at those drivers again, not necessarily in the hunt to win races. What you so often see through this phase of the year are drivers who are intending to do another year in the series going, I wonder what happens if I just try to drive the car a bit more like this or a bit more like that, or try more rear downforce, or something along the lines of something they've wanted to try but they didn't want to give up a session when they still felt like they might have a championship chance earlier on in the year. Now through this phase of the season, you've got a lot of learning going on for drivers who've effectively put this year in the bin. They know that they are driving for experience and potentially a one-off result through the rest of the year. If they have a bad qualifying later on today, it might be something where they go, okay, well, let's try the alternative strategy this weekend for the first time this year, and give us some understanding of how that leaves me through a race distance, so when I start again next year, I've got that data in the bag. Yeah, that's a very good point. When the pressure of a championship title comes off the shoulders of a driver, it can make them actually a very threatening package for the remainder of the season. Richard Vishaw there in the car has been on the podium here a couple of times, but that can almost release a driver with such confidence going into the remainder of the season. Sure, definitely drivers, or drivers who are affiliated with Formula 1 teams who've now been told they're not going to get the drive through next year. I mean, a driver not necessarily affiliated to the incoming Cadillac team, but a driver who definitely would have thought that he might have had an opportunity, Jack Crawford now, will be thinking, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do now? I'm not going to get potentially that test drive spot that I thought I was going to get. I just need to focus now on my Formula 2 season, my Formula 2 series, and get the best results possible. Or maybe even push on into next year. You've got a black and white flag for Arvid Lindblad for track limits. Drivers are also being picked up for not following the escape road instructions. So that's Arvid Lindblad as well. That'll be down at either the Roger chicane or the first chicane, where they basically have not gone through the approved runoff area. Yeah, Pepe Marti again. You mentioned Jack Crawford. He could make a real statement here with a championship win, couldn't he? He did mention how he wants to progress his career forward. And then we've got the fight of the Red Bull Juniors, the two Campos drivers, of course Ollie Goethe as well, but very close fight going on between Pepe Marti and Arvid Lindblad. And we caught up with Pepe Marti yesterday.
It was good. I mean, obviously, it was a very tough race with tight competition behind, and yeah, obviously came down to the wire. So it was a very exciting race. I think even to watch back, it was quite exciting. But to be honest, it's completely past now. Like as I've mentioned before in the past, winning on Saturdays obviously it feels nice, but you want to win on a Sunday, and that's still the target. And we want to do that. We want to keep on working forward, and I think here we can have a good weekend, and hopefully why not fight for the win on Sunday.
Pepe Marti went to see Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar came to see the whole Campos team. Saw both Pepe Marti and Arvid Lindblad with Liam Lawson after his podium, and a well done to Isaac Hadjar on a first Formula 1 podium. That's Arvid Lindblad's talk of him running wide there, and a good fight going on between these two teammates, isn't there? And it's to be highest placed Red Bull Junior, which would be quite the result for both drivers, Alex. One that would carry a lot of significance for either, I think.
Yeah, really neck and neck in the championship, aren't they? 97 points for Marty, he sits 6th. Arvid Lindblad in 7th position on 92 points. It's been a good rookie season for Lindblad, twice a winner, not least in the feature race in Barcelona, which was a great performance from pole position. Has definitely demonstrated something this year, Arvid Lindblad, and we'll be looking through to everything that's going on at the next level. The performance that Isaac Hadjar is able to give, and then into the upper reaches of the main team, of course, in Formula 1, to see how the Tetris blocks are going to shuffle to potentially offer him a seat, as will Pepe Marti. And this then the battle that you allude to, Chris. Who is next on the escalator between those two?
Yeah, it's no surprise, Arvid. There has always been talks of him progressing. Speak of Isaac Hadjar, there he is, our vice champion from last year, now a podium finisher. We have to talk about that, Alex. I mean, what a performance from him.
That was an outstanding drive from Isaac Hadjar, and great to see him jump for the first time onto the Formula 1 podium. It was all going off around him, wasn't it? But it reminded me of some of those days we saw him in the Formula 2 Championship, where, okay, he put a car in qualifying where arguably it might not have been in the shape of the RB. And then drove a perfect race with it all happening around him to deliver the podium. He used to do that in Formula 2, but in equal machinery, it used to be for the win, didn't it? But you really saw that same kind of banging on pole, charge off into the distance, magic weekend from Isaac Hadjar back in Zandvoort.
There were two things I loved about it. One, when he got interviewed straight away, he just said, "This is the first of many," which is just the confidence Isaac Hadjar has when you've got to know him around the paddock. He's always carries such confidence. And the second one, he wanted his broken trophy. He didn't want a new one. So he said that was part of his history, and he actually wanted the broken one. So I thought that was quite cool as well.
They did offer him another one.
They did, but I think he actually just wants the broken one. As he mentioned, it's it wouldn't have the same smells, the new one. So I thought that was quite cool. And he always makes sure he watches Formula 3 and Formula 2.
And is now sponsored by a super glue manufacturer.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
We've not seen much of Montoya, barring in the pit lane so far this session. 18th at the moment. Further down than Montoya, Leonardo Fornaroli, interestingly enough, championship leader, has not been having the most enlightening session, has he?
No.
21st at the moment. Is this a better lap for Fornaroli? Looks like it's relatively pushing on, but it doesn't look to be too much of an improvement at the moment. Let's see what he's able to do through the final couple of laps of the session. Monza, a circuit that's relatively well used, so doesn't have that sort of escalation of grip that you see, for example, at a street circuit through the weekend. So the circuit remains relatively stable. We're pretty high on track temp. 35 degrees at the moment, and the circuit can be quite reactive to that in how aggressively it degrades the tyre, so we may see drivers struggle to improve massively through the end of the session, but let's see.
Alex Dunn heads through Ascari. Jack Crawford also improving, Luke Browning likewise, so we are starting to see sector times improving now as we head into this final run. You make a good point on Fornaroli, though. Hasn't quite been able to get a lap in. Sami Megatunov won the race here last year. That's Leo Fornaroli and Gabriele Mini. Luke Browning all fought for the title, which went down to the wire. And Sami Megatunov, speaking of, goes up to P15 for Trident. Jack Crawford goes up to P5. So improvements now starting to come in. We do have a Turn 4 incident involving Lindblad. Will be investigated after the session, failing to follow race director's instructions. Now, we did see that. We did see that actually live, didn't we?
Saw it on the replay, yeah. Scampering across the runoff area. The argument generally from the drivers is it wasn't safe to try to arc the car back across the runoff area because I got too far through the corner and would have crashed it if I'd done that. Whether that'll hold any water, who knows? Dino Beganovic, Ferrari driver on Academy turf, pops his high-tech up in 6th position. He'll be pretty satisfied with that. The two high-techs now, Linus Cern, 2 and 4 tenths off the pace respectively on the left-hand side of your screen. Let's see what's going on with Alex Dunn, who did that on the lap that we followed him on. You get a nasty bounce off the curb there, look, the bump that's just beyond the curb, and they might be looking at the at any damping options they can have that can try and get rid of that, because that's a nasty little oversteer which will degrade the tyre through the race. The rear tyres really don't like going sideways and spinning at the same time. They also don't like going forwards, not moving, in the way that Dino Beganovic's were there with a little left front lockup, but that shouldn't cost him too much.
Is on board with Richard Verschoor, just backing off on this lap, so we won't see any improvements from him, nor anyone out there on circuit on this lap anyway. They're all just bringing the pace down, so all on a build lap, getting ready to go for a push lap, and that's what we're going to see for Luke Browning as he heads up to the line.
I'd love to know whose toe Richard Verschoor was waiting for there. His eyes were firmly in the mirrors. Through goes Luke Browning, and he's towing the whole field behind him, pretty much. Coming towards the end of this free practice session, neat and tidy down towards the first apex, carries a lot of speed, does Luke Browning, and as a result has to lean a little bit more than he might have liked on the second apex curve. They stay well away under traction from that outside curve now. On the right-hand side, Browning 5th in the session at the moment. Let's see what he's got here. He's not going to have anybody punching a hole in the air for him. You can see Pepe Marti is behind, and actually the amount Pepe Marti caught Browning there through the first sector, indicative of what a tow will do for you down the Rettifilo.
Will we see teams work together here if they can get 2 laps out of it?
I mean, I think if they can find each other, yeah. It's normally a bit too chaotic, isn't it? Formula 2 qualifying for that, but certainly drivers will be attempting to get a tow off each other. There might be some agreements in the paddock. Whether those agreements are actually honoured in the cut and thrust out on the track, who knows? Done really with a move on through the middle of the Ascari chicane. We've got a yellow flag out there.
Yeah, someone's had a bit of an incident. There's a green flag waving at Ascari, which tells me maybe it's around that part of the circuit.
Rear moving around for Dunn through the exit of the Parabolica. 2 better sectors so far. Is he going to find the top spot? No. Final sector is not better. The final sector running from before the Ascari chicane, and we'll be unlikely to see any of these drivers improve because they've been through that yellow flag sector. Richard Verschoor is going to drive it to the line anyway. 3 minutes left to run, so they might get another lap in here. Relatively short lap here in Monza, although a yellow flag in the middle of the Ascari chicane normally means that. Yeah,
there we go. So Joshua Dirksen has gone off at Ascari. That will bring an end to the session as the clock keeps ticking in practice. So Joshua Dirksen on the final flying laps has gone off through Ascari there, just having a look at the car. But that will be that for Joshua Dirksen and the practice session.
Doesn't look to be too much damage. I'm expecting to see an overcorrect and a spin here for Dirksen. Dips it in the gravel and rotates inwards. Kind of lost it through that first apex, just carrying a bit too much speed. the real time differentiator in the Ascari chicane is how much speed you take in and through that first apex while still making it stick through the second two parts. So that is just plain last lap of free practice. Let's have a go a little bit.
It seems a corner that's very easy to get greedy on because of an uphill approach. You could just take too much speed into that.
You have to brake earlier than you think every time into there, and then it's all about clearing the brakes. You can't. You're way more you're way more unsighted, if that's the way that one would say it, than you expect to be over the top of the crest there, and you really don't see the apex until you clip it. So it's way more uphill than you think it would be. So you have to brake before you can see the corner, and then clear the brakes on the way in, and it's really pick a speed on the way through. And so often drivers just catch that inside curb, and it makes the car take a nasty session. Understandably, will not be resumed.
Yeah, the other one seems to be Lesmo 2, doesn't it? As you mentioned, they seem to look familiar, but that one seems to just catch everyone out.
It's a typical nature of a corner being dominated by what's around it. Lesmo 1, there's nowhere to go other than straight to Lesmo 2, where there's a long way to go, all the way down to the Ascari chicane. So you go in fast to Lesmo 1 and you come out fast of Lesmo 2. Very similar corners in terms of radius, totally different in terms of technique.
Well, that's the practice session done for sure. Fastest from Browning and Dunn, but I look to the very bottom. Stanek, who was pole last time out, Alex, 21st. Championship leader for Neroli, 22nd.
Yes. That's
So
not a great,
that's not the best
a great
start.
session for Invicta, is it?
No.
It could be strategically the team have decided to bias towards race pace. I mean, when you look down the field, it is monumentally close. But even still, that's not great performance. Perhaps fundamentally wrong on the way that they're flying the car, but there will be that's more than just a strategic decision for me. There's something awry at Invicta at this stage. They'll be looking into that in the break.
Yeah, both cars down there as well. So, yeah, we'll see about that one. A bit of cause for concern from them, but for sure, very good. Browning, Dunn, Goethe putting a good performance there. Kushmaini likewise up there as well. And Alex Dunn, third place, will now hop out and get ready to go for a FP1 session.
It's a pretty good time and a pretty good place to do it. Alex Dunn, who was previously behind the wheel of the McLaren back in Austria. So McLaren picking some smart circuits for that.
Yeah.
You know, pretty well known to the young drivers, and also relatively simple in terms of their layout. Allow Alex Dunn to get a feel for that machine. He did a fantastic job, if you recall, back in Austria when he jumped behind the wheel of the McLaren. So looking forward to seeing that in FP1.
Absolutely, absolutely. So busy day ahead for him. Richard Bashaw, very good start to the day for him so far, and he makes his way now down the pit lane and goes down as the fastest driver in practice in Formula 2. 1:32.547. That is the fastest time in practice. Luke Browning second, Alex Dunn off for FP1 in third, then Ollie Goethe fourth place, Kushmaini fifth, Victor Martin, Stina Beganovic, Arvid Lindblad, Jack Crawford and Marie Cordial in the top 10.
Well, what a great end to the first session then of the weekend. We'll see you later on for F1 practice. Bye-bye.